The galaxy had never felt so silent yet so full of dread. Entire star systems had vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving nothing behind but drifting debris and dead suns. Civilizations that once claimed the stars as their own were now whispers in the void. Panic spread faster than fleets could move, and even the strongest empires found themselves powerless. The enemy that swept across the galaxy was unknown, unrelenting, and utterly merciless. Ships exploded without warning. Entire planets were stripped of life, and no call for help went unanswered except until now, the galaxy had almost no one to answer them. In the towering halls of the Galactic Council, beings of all shapes and sizes convened. Some had scales of diamond, others shimmered like liquid metal, and a few were beings of pure energy, their forms flickering as if the universe itself moved through them. Their voices filled the chamber, echoing with desperation. Chancellor Vryn, the oldest and wisest among them, floated to the center. His voice trembled, though no one could tell if it was from fear or grief. "Our fleets are shattered," he said. "Our planets are falling. We have sent distress calls to every corner of the galaxy, and yet, help does not come. If we do not act now, there may be nothing left to save." Representatives murmured among themselves. Some argued over strategies while others debated who was to blame for the rising tide of destruction. But no solutions were offered. Most species had grown complacent, relying on their technology or past victories to carry them through. This enemy had proven that complacency was death. Finally, a single message arrived. It was short, almost blunt in its wording. "We go. Send coordinates." It came from a small blue planet at the edge of a quiet spiral arm. Earth. Many in the council laughed at first. Earth? That tiny, seemingly insignificant world. Their fleets were small, their weapons outdated, and their people, well, they were humans. Some of the council had heard of them. Primitive, unpredictable, fragile. How could they hope to fight the galaxy's greatest threat? But the humans' message carried a strange weight. There was no hesitation, no bargaining, no asking for reward. Just a promise they would answer. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations were already underway. On sprawling bases hidden in mountain ranges and deserts, humans worked in silence. Machines roared as starships were readied, engines glowing hot, ready to push past the atmosphere into space. Pilots trained under harsh conditions, running drills in gravity stronger than the strongest alien worlds, in storms that could tear lesser beings apart. Every human who joined the fleet had been hardened by a planet that was often called a death world. General Mara Kane walked through the hangar, her boots echoing against the metal floor. Her uniform was marked with scars of previous battles, medals earned in conflicts no one else had dared fight. Her eyes were sharp, burning with determination. "We don't need permission," she said to her officers. "We don't need approval. When the galaxy calls, we answer. That is what humans do. That is who we are." Her words spread across the fleet, reaching every soldier, pilot, and engineer. There was no boast, no prideful speech, just certainty. And certainty in humans was dangerous. Children waved from observation decks as families whispered prayers, though most new humans rarely relied on luck or hope alone. They relied on endurance, courage, and the unwillingness to quit. Somewhere beneath the blue skies, soldiers hugged loved ones, sharing small smiles, knowing they might not return. Yet no fear could shake the resolve that ran through their veins. Finally, the day came to depart. The Earth fleet rose into orbit, engines bright against the black sky. They did not form a majestic line, nor did they parade like the fleets of older civilizations. These ships were practical, battle-scarred, patched with a mix of old and new technology. They had survived worse than any council member could imagine. And now they were headed into the unknown to face an enemy that had already devoured thousands of worlds. In the Galactic Council, murmurs spread again. "They are reckless," said one elder being. "They cannot survive against this enemy." Yet deep down, even the wisest felt a flicker of hope. There was something in humans, something primal and terrifyingly strong. It was not technology that made them dangerous. It was willpower. It was the way they refused to yield, the way they thrived in worlds that would have killed any other species. Humans were survivors in the purest sense, forged by a world that demanded they endure, and now they were coming to fight for the galaxy itself. As Earth's fleet vanished into the void, carrying with it the hopes of countless civilizations, the Council realized something extraordinary. For the first time in generations, a small world dismissed by all might be the only thing standing between the galaxy and annihilation. And the humans, true to their word, were already ready for war. The human fleet arrived at the outer edge of the war-torn systems. Stars that had once glittered with life now glowed dimly through the black smoke of ruined worlds. Planets floated like wounded animals, scarred by war. Oceans poisoned, cities reduced to rubble. The scent of death seemed to cling to the void itself. An invisible haze no sensor could filter. Admiral Rael, a veteran of countless battles and one of the oldest officers in the Galactic Council's forces, met the humans at a makeshift command station orbiting a shattered planet. He was tall, his form wrapped in a cloak of dark metal, and his eyes had seen horrors most species could not imagine. Yet even he felt unease at the sight of the human fleet. Small, patched and scarred though it was, the fleet moved with a quiet confidence that spoke louder than any armada he had ever commanded. "We have lost so many systems," Admiral Rael said, his voice flat. "Our fleets are broken, and yet you come knowing the odds." Captain Jax Corvin, a human pilot who had seen more battles than he cared to count, leaned against his ship's console. His expression was calm, almost bored, but his eyes burned with quiet fire. "We fight," he said simply. "We survive. That is what humans do." The aliens blinked at him, unsure if he understood the danger or if he simply did not care. Corvin did care, of course, but humans did not let fear control them. They used it, shaped it, and let it fuel their strength. It was an instinct older than any council member, honed over millennia in a world where survival meant facing storms, earthquakes, disease, and war without flinching. As the fleet approached a devastated planet, they began to see survivors. Alien families huddled among the ruins, frightened and starving. Some had given up hope entirely, resigned to being erased from history. The humans moved among them without hesitation. Soldiers handed out rations, engineers repaired failing life support systems, and medics treated the injured. Their presence alone seemed to ignite a spark of courage, a reminder that life could be reclaimed even in the face of annihilation. But the enemy did not wait. Shadows moved between stars, massive ships cutting through the darkness, black and jagged like predators born from nightmares. They descended upon the humans and their alien allies with speed that defied comprehension. Energy beams tore through space, scattering debris and fire. Entire moons shook under the force of their attacks, yet the humans did not retreat. Their ships moved unpredictably, diving into enemy fire, striking with precision and vanishing before retaliation could reach them. Jax Corvin led his squadron through narrow asteroid fields, weaving between explosions as if he were dancing with death itself. Each human fighter seemed to carry an invisible shield of resolve, their sheer will making them almost untouchable. On the surface of the devastated planet, human soldiers reinforced makeshift fortresses, setting traps and barricades. They taught the alien survivors to fight back, showing them how to use the environment, lava vents, jagged cliffs, and toxic swamps, to their advantage. Every ruined city became a battlefield, every crater a defensive position, every scar on the land a tool of survival. Night came, though in space, night was merely a shift in light and shadow. Around small fires and glowing panels, humans spoke quietly. They talked about Earth, about families they had left behind, about the lives they fought to protect. These conversations carried emotion, courage, and a deep sense of duty. Alien allies listened, fascinated. There was no boasting, no bragging, just truth, raw and unflinching. Humans were not fighting for glory. They were fighting because they could not do otherwise. Even as the enemy pressed harder, launching waves of attacks across multiple systems, the human fleet held. Their tactics were strange to the aliens, almost chaotic, but devastatingly effective. Entire squadrons of the enemy were neutralized before they could even react. Admiral Rael watched in disbelief. "They fight like nothing I have ever seen," he muttered. "They do not fear death. They embrace it, and they turn it into victory." On a ruined city's surface, a young human soldier shielded a group of children from a collapsing building. His uniform was scorched, his face streaked with soot and blood, yet he smiled gently. "Stay close," he said. "We will get you out. Humans don't leave anyone behind." The first taste of hope in centuries spread quickly. The humans were more than fighters, they were symbols, living proof that even in the face of total annihilation, life could endure. Stories of their courage traveled across communication networks faster than the enemy fleet. Entire planets that had surrendered without a fight began to rise, joining the humans and fighting back. And somewhere deep within the darkness the enemy paused. It sensed something it had never felt before. Fear, respect? Perhaps both. But whatever it was, it had never encountered humans like these. Unrelenting, fearless, and fueled by something far more powerful than technology alone. The human Deathworlders had arrived. The galaxy would soon learn that when humans fought, survival was not just likely, it was inevitable. The battles raged on, day after day, across shattered worlds. Humans moved like a storm, fast, unpredictable, and merciless, but every victory came at a price. Ships that had survived centuries of Earth's harshest conditions now lay in twisted metal heaps among the stars. Soldiers who had trained their whole lives to endure death now faced it in its most absolute form. Yet no matter how many fell, the humans pressed forward, unbroken. Captain Jax Corvin looked over the aftermath of the latest engagement. The black void of space was littered with wreckage. Enemy ships torn apart, human vessels scorched, smoke trailing into infinity. He ran a hand over his face, streaked with soot and sweat. His heart ached for the lives lost, but there was no time for grief. Every battle was a step closer to survival. Every soldier who survived carried the memory of those who had fallen. General Mara Kane stood on the bridge of her command ship, her eyes scanning the endless battlefield. She had lost friends, comrades, and brave pilots who had given everything. And yet, as she watched the younger soldiers, unafraid and determined, she felt a deep pride. Humans were built to endure. Their strength was not in fleets or weapons, but in their will, and it was that will that kept them alive, kept them fighting, even when the universe seemed determined to destroy them. On one ruined planet, a young soldier named Eli crouched behind a crumbling wall, his hand shaking as he held his weapon. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of burnt metal. Alien civilians watched him terrified, expecting him to freeze. But instead Eli rose, his eyes blazing. He ran forward, drawing fire away from the survivors, guiding them to safety. Some of them would not understand it, but this was human instinct. Protect the weak, survive, and fight back. Elsewhere, human engineers worked tirelessly to repair battle-damaged ships. One ship, nicknamed Iron Will, had taken more hits than any other vessel in the fleet. Its hull was riddled with scorch marks, yet it was patched and reinforced with material scavenged from enemy wrecks. Every bolt, every repair was an act of defiance. It was a message to the galaxy. Humans do not surrender. The Galactic Council's officers watched in awe as humans adapted to the worst conditions imaginable. Entire fleets had been destroyed, yet the humans never paused, never faltered. They used ruined planets, toxic atmospheres, and deadly storms as tools, turning death itself into a weapon. Alien commanders began to whisper the word with reverence, Earthblood, but the human toll was undeniable. Ships vanished, pilots died in moments of heroism, and entire squads were lost to the void. Letters were sent back to Earth whenever possible. Brief messages, a few words, a reminder that life continued, that families waited. Each message was read aloud on the bridge of every ship, giving strength, sorrow, and determination all at once. In the middle of a smoke-choked battlefield, General Mara Kane gathered her remaining officers. "They think we will break," she said, her voice low but unwavering. "They think we will surrender. They are wrong. We are humans. We are survivors. Every time we fall, we rise. Every life lost is not wasted. It fuels the next strike. Remember that." Her words spread quickly through the fleet, carried by comms, whispered to soldiers hiding behind ruined buildings, floating in orbit, or navigating asteroid fields. Humans had a way of inspiring hope even when the world or galaxy seemed hopeless. Alien allies who had never seen anything like it began to fight with renewed vigor. Some said it was courage. Others called it madness. But it was simply humanity. At night, human soldiers gathered in small groups, sharing memories, telling stories, and quietly mourning the dead. They laughed softly at each other's mistakes, cried for lost friends, and spoke of home as if speaking it aloud could give them strength. Alien allies watched in awe, realizing that humans' resilience was not just physical, it was emotional. They could endure, adapt, and even find joy in the darkest times. The enemy was relentless, striking without warning, appearing where humans had not expected them. Yet humans anticipated, countered, and survived. Every battle scarred them, yet every scar became a badge of honor. Each fallen comrade became a symbol, a reminder that humanity did not fight alone. They fought for each other and for the galaxy. Even amidst despair, humans never gave up. Captain Corvin led a squadron through a collapsing city, dodging falling debris and enemy fire. When asked why he risked himself so recklessly, he simply said, "Because someone has to. 'Cause if we stop, the galaxy dies. We don't have a choice." The aliens began to understand something profound. Humans were not just soldiers. They were legends in the making. They did not fight for fame, for reward, or even for glory. They fought because survival was in their blood. They fought because they could. And most importantly, they fought because they never gave up. As the stars burned and the fleet pushed forward, one truth became undeniable. The galaxy had never seen anything like humanity. And in the shadow of death and destruction, humans shone brighter than any sun, a beacon of hope, courage, and unyielding will. The humans were changing the battlefield. What had once seemed hopeless now carried a glimmer of possibility. Their presence alone inspired those who had long given up. Alien soldiers who had huddled behind shattered walls in despair now moved with purpose. Even the largest fleets of the Galactic Council, which had been broken and retreating, began to take courage from the humans' actions. Captain Jax Corvin stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the enemy fleet approaching. Their black hulls gleamed like predatory shadows, countless and menacing. "They think fear can control us," he said, voice calm but steady. "They are wrong. Let's show them what humans can do." The human strategy was simple yet unpredictable. They used the environment to their advantage, turning ruined worlds, frozen wastelands, and volcanic plains into weapons. Mines were planted in asteroid fields. Energy pulses reflected through ion storms, and abandoned enemy technology was scavenged and transformed into devastating weapons. The enemy could not anticipate human tactics. They were too chaotic, too creative, too daring. On a planet with rivers of molten lava, soldiers moved like shadows, striking the enemy's supply lines. Alien forces had calculated every move, assuming humans would avoid extreme danger, but humans thrived where others would die. Troops ran across scorched ground, their armor resisting heat and flame, while enemy machines melted and broke under the assault. Meanwhile, in orbit, human starships performed maneuvers no alien commander could predict. Captain Corvin led his squadron through a collapsing asteroid belt, diving between massive rocks while enemy fire tore the void apart around them. Each strike was precise, each maneuver instinctive, as if the humans themselves were an extension of the battlefield. Admiral Rail watched from his command station, disbelief etched into his features. "They are rewriting the rules of war," he whispered to his aides. "They are unstoppable." But the humans did not fight for reputation. They fought for survival. Every victory carried a cost. Every success was forged through courage and sacrifice. General Mara Kane moved across the front lines, speaking to her soldiers, calming the fearful, encouraging the exhausted. Her presence was a beacon, a reminder that even in the darkest hour, humans never surrendered. In one ruined city, human medics treated wounded civilians while snipers covered the perimeter. Children who had hidden in basements and tunnels emerged slowly, guided by soldiers who risked their lives to bring them to safety. The humans taught them how to survive, how to fight, how to endure. These lessons would echo for generations. The enemy, frustrated by constant setbacks, began to adapt. They unleashed larger fleets, more destructive weapons, and attempted to crush the humans with sheer force. Yet every attack was countered. Humans anticipated the enemy's moves, striking before they could react. Entire enemy formations were annihilated, leaving nothing behind but drifting wreckage. Across the galaxy, word of human courage spread. Planets that had surrendered to despair began to rise, rallying behind the humans' example. Entire fleets of alien species joined the fight, emboldened by the sight of humans surviving where none else could. It was no longer just a battle, it was a movement. Humanity had become the spark that lit the fires of hope across the galaxy. Captain Corvin led a daring strike deep into enemy territory. His squadron dove through fields of exploding ships weaving between fire and debris. One by one, enemy ships fell under precise human attacks. The remaining forces scattered, leaderless and confused. "Keep moving," Corvin shouted. "We don't stop until this ends." On the surface, General Kane oversaw the reclamation of a devastated city. Her troops worked tirelessly to rebuild barricades, rescue survivors, and clear enemy strongholds. Every human was a leader, a fighter, and a protector. They moved as one, a relentless force that no machine, no army, no fear could stop. And the enemy began to understand something vital. Humans were not like any other species. They did not merely fight, they endured. They adapted. They thrived in conditions that would destroy anything else. Fear did not exist in their eyes, only determination. Death was not an end. It was a challenge. Every human who fell strengthened those who survived, creating an unbroken chain of courage. The tide of battle had turned. What once seemed impossible, the survival of entire star systems, now felt achievable. The humans' ingenuity, bravery, and unyielding will had carved a path through destruction, and yet for all their victories they pressed forward, never pausing, never celebrating, always ready for the next challenge. Captain Corvin looked to the stars, a quiet smile on his face. "We fight because we must," he said. "We survive because we can, and we will never stop." The enemy fleet, once confident and merciless, now faltered. Humanity was a force unlike any they had faced before, relentless, unstoppable, and fearless. Across the shattered worlds, hope began to bloom. The humans were no longer just fighters. They were legends, and the galaxy finally began to believe that survival was possible. The war had reached a point where exhaustion weighed heavily on every soldier, every ship, every world. The humans had fought through endless battles, facing enemies that seemed unstoppable, yet their spirit remained unbroken. Where others faltered, the humans thrived. They had learned that survival was not just a matter of weapons or ships, it was a matter of heart. General Mara Kane walked through a ruined city, her boots crunching over shattered glass and scorched metal. Around her, human soldiers moved with tireless energy, clearing debris, rescuing trapped survivors, and setting up defenses for the next wave of attacks. Even in the midst of chaos, their morale never broke. They joked quietly, shared water and food, and encouraged one another, as if the smallest acts of humanity could repel the darkness itself. Captain Jax Corvin stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the stars. He could see enemy formations moving across the void, their black silhouettes threatening to crush everything in their path. And yet, even as danger approached, he felt no fear. Fear was a tool for the weak. Humans had something stronger: determination, endurance, and an unshakable belief that survival was possible no matter the odds. The alien allies who had joined the humans watched them closely. Some had fought for millennia, seen fleets destroyed, civilizations collapse, yet they had never witnessed anything like the human way. Humans did not retreat when hope seemed lost. Humans did not despair when the odds were against them. They did not wait for miracles. They made them happen. On a frozen planet, human engineers repaired a critical energy generator while under constant fire. They moved with efficiency, precision, and a calm that defied the chaos around them. Explosions shook the ground. Enemy fire ripped through the sky, yet they worked steadily, refusing to abandon their task. When a younger engineer faltered, a veteran placed a hand on his shoulder. "We survive because we fight," the veteran said quietly. "Every second counts. Every action matters. We are humans, we endure." In the midst of battle, human pilots executed maneuvers that no other species could anticipate. They used gravity wells, meteor fields, and the remnants of destroyed planets as shields and weapons. They dove into enemy fire, striking with precision and vanishing before retaliation could reach them. Every strike was calculated, every risk taken with courage that bordered on recklessness. Yet the results spoke for themselves. The enemy faltered, confused and frustrated by a species that refused to obey the rules of war. On one devastated moon, a young human soldier named Lyra carried wounded civilians to safety. Her uniform was torn, her face streaked with soot, but she smiled at the children she protected. "You're safe now," she said softly. "Humans never leave anyone behind. Not here, not anywhere." Her words echoed across the battlefield, carried through communication networks, inspiring others who were fighting far away. General Kine gathered her officers for a brief meeting amidst the chaos. "They think humans are fragile," she said, her voice firm. "They think we will break. They are wrong. Every soldier who falls, every ship destroyed, only strengthens our resolve. Every life we save reminds the galaxy why humans are feared and why we endure. We are not just fighters. We are survivors. We are hope. The enemy began to realize the truth, but it was too late. Humans were no longer just a fleet or an army. They were a symbol. Every system reclaimed, every survivor rescued, and every victory, no matter how small, sent a message to the galaxy. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not fear death. Humans did not break. Even alien allies began to change under the humans' influence. Entire fleets that had been hesitant now attacked with renewed courage, inspired by the humans' unshakable spirit. Entire civilizations that had lost hope now rose to fight alongside them, refusing to be crushed. The humans were more than soldiers, they were a movement, a force that spread courage across the stars. That night, as human soldiers rested under dim lights, small fires and the glow of battle-damaged ships, they told stories of home, of family, of Earth. They laughed softly, cried quietly, and shared memories that reminded them why they fought. Their spirit was contagious, uniting everyone around them. Alien soldiers who joined their circles felt something unfamiliar. Warmth, hope, and the belief that victory was possible, even when the enemy seemed invincible. From the bridge of his ship, Captain Corvin watched the stars. "They think they can destroy us," he said quietly. "But they don't understand humans. They never will. We survive because we must. We fight because we can, and we never give up." Across the galaxy, stories of human courage spread faster than any fleet. The enemy whispered the name of Earth with fear. Systems once resigned to death began to fight back. Lives once thought lost were saved. Hope, long abandoned, returned to the galaxy. Humanity had become more than a species. They had become a legend. And in the shadow of death, fire, and despair, the human spirit shone brighter than any star. The enemy had grown desperate. After countless defeats, its fleet had been reduced but not broken. Its leaders unleashed their deadliest ships, weapons that could tear entire planets apart, and tactics designed to crush every last human soldier. The galaxy held its breath, knowing that if the humans failed now, hope would die along with them. Captain Jax Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, his eyes fixed on the approaching enemy fleet. Massive ships, dark and jagged, moved like a storm, faster and more violent than anything the humans had faced before. Yet he did not hesitate. Fear was not part of his nature. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and they would survive this. General Mara Kane addressed her officers with quiet determination. "This is the moment we've trained for. Every victory, every loss, every lesson has brought us here. Remember why we fight. Remember who we are. We are humans. We survive, we endure, and we do not surrender." The fleet moved into formation, but it was not the precise, predictable formation of other species. Humans thrived on chaos, on adaptability. Their ships twisted and turned, using gravity wells, asteroid fields, and the debris of destroyed worlds as shields and weapons. Each movement was calculated, yet unpredictable, striking fear into enemy commanders who had believed themselves invincible. On the surface of a scorched planet, soldiers prepared defensive lines, setting traps, barricades, and improvised weapons. Civilians and alien allies were evacuated under human guidance. Each life saved a victory in itself. Young soldiers carried the wounded across fire-swept streets, their hands steady even when their hearts pounded. As the enemy unleashed wave after wave of attacks, human pilots darted through the void like shadows. Captain Corvin led the charge, flying his craft directly into the heart of the enemy formation. Explosions erupted around him, lighting the dark void with fire and metal. But he pressed on, striking the fleet's command ship with precision. The enemy faltered, confused by the audacity of a species they had dismissed as weak. Admiral Rail watched from his command station, awe and disbelief etched across his features. "They fight like demons," he muttered. "And yet, their courage is unmatched. They do not fear death. They embrace it and they turn it into strength." Everywhere the humans fought, the enemy's confidence crumbled. Squadrons that had once been unstoppable were destroyed, supply lines severed, and command networks shattered. Human soldiers worked tirelessly, patching ships, redistributing weapons, and keeping the fleet moving. No one rested, no one doubted, no one faltered. Their spirit was a shield as strong as any armor. On one battlefield, a young soldier named Lyra guided a group of children through a ruined city as explosions tore through the streets. She held their hands tightly. "We are humans," she whispered. "We survive always. You will live because we fight. That is our promise. The children repeated her words quietly, their small voices carrying hope in a galaxy that had almost forgotten it. In the far reaches of the Andromeda expanse, entire worlds were disappearing. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were reduced to rubble. Their people vanished in the blink of an eye. The galaxy had known war before, but nothing like this. The enemy was called the Vocari, an ancient, merciless species that devoured planets like a storm devours leaves. Systems that once shined with life now drifted as empty husks in the cold black of space. On the surviving planets, fear had become a constant companion. Leaders gathered in secret chambers, their faces pale and eyes hollow. They had tried everything: diplomacy, alliances, even desperate last-minute defenses. Nothing had worked. The Vocari were unstoppable, and so, in despair, they turned to a distant hope, sending a message across the void. A plea whispered like a prayer, desperate and trembling. Help us, please. Send someone. Anything. We cannot survive alone. The message traveled light years, cutting through the emptiness of space, carrying the weight of countless lives. On Earth, the signal arrived in the control room of the Terran Coalition, where humans, an upstart species by galactic standards, listened carefully. The room was silent for a long moment. Then voices rose in debate full of concern and calculation. The Vocari are dangerous, said Admiral Rios, standing beside a holographic display of the expanse. We have no treaty with these worlds. Why risk our ships? A scientist shook her head. Because if we do not act, every system out there will fall. And eventually, it could be us. They are not just an alien problem. They are a universal problem. And then Captain Aveline Torres stepped forward. She was young, but her presence carried the weight of countless missions and battles. Her eyes, dark and unwavering, scanned the council. We are the species that survives, she said. Not because we are the strongest, but because we never give up. We adapt, we fight, and we endure. This is our moment. These people need someone to answer their prayers. Let it be us. Her words hung in the air like a promise. Something unspoken stirred in every human present. Humanity had faced extinction countless times in its own history. Plagues, wars, invasions, natural disasters. Time and again, humans had risen. Now their survival instinct was reaching across the stars. The decision was made. A fleet would be sent. The Indomitable, Earth's newest flagship, would lead the mission. Alongside it, dozens of warships, research vessels, and supply ships joined in what would become humanity's boldest venture yet. As the humans prepared, the people of the alien worlds watched their screens in disbelief. They had prayed for angels, beings of calm grace and mercy. What approached was something else entirely. The fleet of humans was enormous, its ships black and angular, bristling with weapons and technology that seemed almost alive. They moved with precision, not elegance. They radiated power and menace. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Torres stood before her crew. They were soldiers, engineers, medics, and scientists, each handpicked for skill and courage. Some were veterans who had seen the death of billions on Earth's battlefields. Some were young, eager to prove themselves. All shared the same understanding. This mission would be unlike any other. Torres turned to them, voice steady but filled with fire. We are not going to these worlds to hold hands. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to ensure survival. They are weak, yes, and desperate, but what awaits them and what awaits us requires more than mercy. It requires strength, ingenuity, and courage beyond anything they have ever imagined. We will be the answer to their prayers, but we will not be angels. The crew understood. They did not need angels. They would be demons, a name whispered in terror and awe because humanity fought like nothing else in the galaxy. They turned disadvantages into advantages, fear into fuel, and desperation into unstoppable force. And then, the Indomitable leapt into the void. The stars stretched and twisted around it as it traveled faster than any alien could comprehend. Light years fell away beneath its engines, and Earth became a pale dot in the distance. Every member of the crew felt the weight of countless lives depending on them. They were leaving home, leaving comfort, leaving certainty, to answer a call that could cost them everything. As the fleet moved through the black, messages from the alien worlds kept arriving, desperate and pleading. Each one tugged at the human hearts, but also sharpened their resolve. These creatures had prayed for mercy, for protection, for help. Humanity would give them survival. Humanity would give them fury. Humanity would give them everything it had, and more. Captain Torres looked ahead at the unknown, the dark expanse filled with danger, death, and uncertainty. Yet she felt no fear, only purpose. Only the burning determination that humans carried in their bones since the dawn of their species. To survive, to fight, and to endure. They prayed for angels, she whispered to herself, eyes fixed on the distant lights of the alien worlds. We are something else entirely. We are humanity. And we will not fail. With that, the fleet disappeared into the stars, carrying hope, terror, and the promise that the galaxy would soon know the true meaning of human determination. The alien worlds waited in a fragile hope, their fleet scattered, their cities trembling under the shadow of the Vocari. They had sent messages across the void, praying for help. They expected angels, beings of calm, shining light, perhaps a gentle hand to guide them through the darkness. What arrived instead was something far different, something that made the stars themselves seem to shiver. The first human ships appeared like shadows stretching across the void. The fleet was immense, black as a starless night, bristling with weapons that glimmered with deadly energy. Their engines roared silently, but the power they carried spoke louder than any sound. To the alien observers, these were not angels, they were demons, massive, unstoppable, and terrifyingly intelligent. Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her eyes scanning the holographic displays of the alien fleets in their cities. She did not speak of mercy. Mercy had no place here. The Vocari were merciless, and anyone who faced them needed more than kindness. Humanity's way was not soft. It was precise, adaptive, and unyielding. Report, Torres commanded. Lieutenant Miro, her second-in-command, replied, The colonies are under heavy attack. The Vocari ships are already engaging defenses, but they underestimate our fleet. They cannot match our firepower. Torres nodded. Good. Then let them learn quickly what happens when humans answer a call for help. In orbit above the first colony, the humans unleashed their assault. Orbital cannons flared, striking the Vocari warships with pinpoint precision. Entire fleets shattered in seconds, explosions lighting up the void like artificial suns. Drones swarmed down to the planet's surface, securing strategic points, neutralizing threats, and protecting civilians. The aliens below watched in awe and terror. These humans were not graceful saviors. They moved like a storm of calculated destruction, each action purposeful, each strike devastating. Children hid in shelters, mouths open in disbelief, as ships blacker than night carved paths of fire across the sky. When a squad of humans boarded a Vocari dreadnought, the aliens on the ground could only watch. The humans moved like predators, silently, methodically cutting through corridors, disabling systems and neutralizing soldiers with weapons they had never seen. One human, wielding nothing more than a compact rifle and an instinct for battle, took out a squad of Vocari officers before vanishing into the shadows. The Vocari Supreme Commander's message echoed through the surviving alien fleets. What is this species? They are monsters. They are demons. And the aliens realized it was true. Humanity had come not with mercy, not with gentle protection, but with force, strategy, and fearsome intelligence. The species that had survived countless wars on their homeworlds, that had endured every threat the galaxy had ignored, was now in their system, delivering salvation wrapped in fire. On the surface of one devastated city, a young alien child clutched a tattered doll, staring at the human soldiers who moved past, securing the streets. One of them, a medic, knelt beside the child and handed over a small vial of water and food. The gesture was simple, almost human in its tenderness, but the presence of humanity itself, a force capable of obliterating entire fleets, made it terrifying. They saved us, the child whispered to their parent. But they are monsters. How can monsters save us? Torres received reports from her squads. Casualties were minimal on the human side. The Vocari, skilled and vicious, had underestimated human adaptability. Every ambush, every trap, every defensive maneuver the aliens had feared had been countered with human creativity. Drones swarmed in ways that no AI could predict. Boarding teams